Lincoln's Reconstruction plan started on December 8, 1863. Lincoln's blueprint for Reconstruction included the 10% plan, which specified that a Southern state could be readmitted into the Union once 10% of its voters swore an oath of allegiance to the Union. The Freedmen's Bureau, which lasted from 1865 to 1872, occurred during the Reconstruction period after the American Civil War. It was a popular name for the U.S. Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, established by Congress to provide practical aid to 4 million newly freed African Americans in their transition from slavery to freedom. In 1865, President Andrew Johnson implemented a plan of Reconstruction that gave the white South a free hand in regulating the transition from slavery to freedom and offered no role to blacks in the politics of the South. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery and involuntary servitude except when applied as punishment for a crime in the entire United States. The 13th Amendment was passed by Congress on January 31, 1865, and ratified on December 6, 1865. 6 Confederate veterans from Pulaski, Tennessee, created the original Ku Klux Klan on December 24, 1865, during the Reconstruction of the South after the Civil War. The Ku Klux Klan used tactics of intimidation, physical violence, and murder in hopes to establish social control over African Americans and their white allies. The Congressional Reconstruction Plan started in 1866. The Congressional Reconstruction was Congress's attempt at reconstruction after they overtook Johnson. They consisted of the Reconstruction Acts, and the significance is that Congress put forth a plan that allowed the South to re-enter the nation. With the radical Republicans fully in control of Congress after the midterm elections of 1866, they quickly passed the Military Reconstruction Acts of 1867. These acts divided the South into 5 military districts. During Reconstruction, African American freedmen briefly gained political rights. The biggest victory was the right to vote. In 1867, 32 black legislators were elected to the Georgia General Assembly. The most well-known was Henry McNeil Turner. However, Mr. Turner received threats from the Ku Klux Klan, and in 1868, Mr. Turner was expelled from his General Assembly seat. Many other black legislators followed. On July 9, 1868, the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution was ratified. The amendment grants citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the United States, which included former slaves who had just been freed after the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant was born on April 27, 1822, and on March 4, 1869, he got elected for president. His presidency lasted until March 4, 1877. Sharecropping and tenant farming lasted from the early 1870s to the early 1950s. Sharecropping is a form of agriculture in which a landowner allows a tenant to use the land in return for a share of the crops produced on their portion of land. The only difference between a sharecropper and a tenant farmer is that the tenant farmer had more supplies than the sharecropper. On February 3, 1870, the 15th Amendment was ratified to the Constitution. This amendment granted African American men the right to vote by declaring that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The Enforcement Act of 1871, also known as the Civil Rights Acts of 1871, Force Act of 1871, Ku Klux Klan Act, Third Enforcement Act, or Third Ku Klux Klan Act. This act protected African Americans' right to vote, to hold office, to serve on juries, and receive equal protection of laws.